Hello friends, it's a pleasure to welcome you to the hollylolly channel, and today we are going to talk about when should you definitely not come to Japan or what time of the year should you visit, how to avoid the huge crowds of tourists and which season to save money on your trip. If you are planning a trip to the land of the rising sun or just want to learn more unexpected things about Japan, this video will help you a lot. Today, I would like to tell you about the worst and best periods to travel to Japan. This will help keep you from surprises and spoiled experiences. Please don't forget to support me by liking and subscribing to the channel. There is no concept of low tourist season here. People go to Japan to rest at any time of the year, but the rest will be different because the seasons in Japan are very different from each other. It should be taken into account that despite the small area, the archipelago is stretched from north to south. Because of this, the climate on each island is different. But this is a plus rather than a minus, because tourists have many opportunities for vacation both in summer and winter. The island of Honshu is the largest, where 80% of the population lives, and it is here that the largest number of tourists come to such large cities as Tokyo, Osaka, and Kyoto. Every year the flow of foreign travelers in Japan is growing. Only in February 2024, almost 3 million people came here to rest. This was the highest figure since the beginning of the pandemic. The number of tourists was also affected by the rate of fall of the yen, which was the highest for the last 30 years. What to expect from Japan in winter? The winter months in Tokyo are quite comfortable. The temperature does not fall below zero, and more often even below 5 degrees. It can feel colder because of the penetrating wind, but if you want to see snowy Japan, Tokyo is definitely not your option. This year, for the first time in several years, the capital has had an abnormal amount of precipitation. In our country, such amount of snow is a common phenomenon, but here the snow paralyzed the whole city, including public transport. For a cool and active winter vacation, it is better to choose Hokkaido with incredible ski resorts, or a part of the island with a tropical climate, where it will be warmest in winter. For example, Okinawa. From late December to early January, the Japanese celebrate the end of the year and New Year's vacation. New Year's Eve here is celebrated with family, so during this time locals travel around the country to visit their relatives for the holidays. During this period, not only is it very crowded, but everything is closed. From about December 28th to January 3rd, almost all establishments, entertainment, museums, and office companies are closed. So I do not advise you to go to celebrate the New Year in Japan, because there is literally nothing to do here. From the pluses, I can note that the middle and end of December is a time of successful shopping. Shopping centers usually have great discounts. In February, in the central part of the country becomes more comfortable. Nature is already beginning to wake up, and prices for housing are quite pleasant. Already on February 3rd, they celebrate Suzbun, the beginning of spring. In February, Japan is not so often visited by tourists. It is too difficult for him to compete with the following months. But there is an opportunity to get to the snow festival in Sapporo with ice sculptures and light shows. And there's also a type of sakura tree that starts blooming at the end of February. There are many varieties of this tree in Japan, but in order to see all this beauty to the maximum, you need to come in spring. March and April is the most controversial period for traveling to the land of the rising sun. The weather throughout Honshu by mid-March is very comfortable, warm, and no frosty days are not worth waiting for. From the middle of March, the Japanese celebrate Hanami, i.e. the cherry blossoms. It usually reaches its peak by the beginning or middle of April. I will not be able to convey in words how beautiful it is, which can be seen literally all over the country. But whether it's worth it is up to you to decide. March is ideal for those who want to enjoy the start of spring and avoid the big crowds. It's a good time to visit the southern and central regions, where the cherry blossoms start earlier. The beginning of March is very comfortable due to the small number of people, but the bright blooming of most sakura species is not to be expected. The end of March is considered a rather difficult period for tourists. This is because Japan starts a new fiscal year. In early April, the school year begins in schools, universities, and personnel changes in companies. Many students travel around the country for vacation before the start of school, and also many employees go on vacation. Because of this, tourist destinations become very congested. Sometimes it becomes literally impossible to get close to the attractions. There are long traffic jams on the roads, and housing prices skyrocket. But even if you are ready to pay any money, most hotels simply won't have rooms available. The Japanese prepare for their vacations and plan them well in advance. Locals can book rooms and apartments a year in advance, if not earlier. It gets easier in early April because students and schoolchildren leave for school and office workers go to work. Spring is the perfect time to travel to the capital. Temperatures are usually 15 to 20 degrees Celsius and can be even warmer in the southern regions. This is the peak of the cherry blossom season, and there are a huge number of festivals and events that celebrate this phenomenon. But if you want to go to Japan specifically for the sake of Hanami, you need to thoroughly find out all the information and morally prepare for any outcome. Japanese meteorologists provide annual forecasts of cherry blossoms. In anime, we most often see cherry blossoms just at the beginning of the school year, when children go to school. But in life, no one has canceled the weather conditions, so it doesn't always happen the same way as in the anime. Forecasts can be inaccurate, and meteorologists warn about that. Warmer or colder weather can speed up or delay blooming, so I recommend keeping an eye on forecast updates and being prepared for possible changes. For example, this year in Tokyo, the cherry blossoms bloomed a week later than promised in the forecast. It doesn't seem like a big difference, but many tourists went home without waiting for Hanami. The worst time to travel is Golden Week, which runs from the end of April to the first week of May. It is a period that combines several national holidays: Emperor Showa's birthday, Constitution Day, Green Day, and Children's Day. This year, Golden Week in Japan lasted from April 29th to May 5th. It's a crazy time. Prices are unrealistically high on everything: flights, trains, accommodation, festival tickets, and so on. But despite that, everything will be pre-booked by the Japanese again, because everybody's vacation season starts again. You know, a lot of people often talk about Japanese workaholism and how they don't go on vacation at all. Yes, such workers definitely exist, but I think they are a minority, because during public holidays all the streets are crowded with crowds of Japanese people, and holidays are not few in Japan. If you think that Tokyo always resembles an anthill with a large number of people, you will not be surprised. You just have not been here in the Golden Week. During this period, it is especially important to book tickets for high-speed Shinkansen trains in advance, because in case you wanted to travel on them between cities, it can be very difficult. All the seats will be taken. Do you think you would risk going to explore Japan at this time? As early as the second half of May, the rainy season gradually arrives. It moves northward every day, and by the beginning of June it takes over almost the whole of the islands. The weather becomes overcast, stuffy, and damp. June is a good time to go to Hokkaido, where it is still May. But at this time lotuses, irises, and many other flowers bloom. The first and second summer months in Japan are considered rainy. But honestly, I don't see it as a big problem because the rain is very warm and usually ends quickly. Before the rain starts, there are umbrellas for sale on every corner near the kombi, or you can buy a raincoat at any time. In July and August it is very hot and sweltering. The concrete surrounding you makes it impossible to explore Tokyo comfortably. You can make an exception and come to Honshu in the summer if you want to conquer one of the main attractions of Japan, Fujiyama. The thing is that you can officially climb the mountain only from July 1st to August 27th. Guides and rescue services work only in these 2 summer months, so at other times Mount Fuji is closed for visiting. Also, all of August and early September are fireworks festivals in Japan. Fireworks can consist of 15, 20, and even 30,000 volleys. To say that it was beautiful, nothing to say. But last year, 700,000 people came to see the fireworks. We spent 40 minutes just to find where we could watch the show from. In September, it's still quite hot, but it's a bit better than in summer. The weather is very comfortable at the end of the month, but there are several holidays in the last week of September. Therefore, it can be more crowded than usual. But I wouldn't say it's critical, because it doesn't compare at all with the Golden Week in early May. October and November is the most comfortable time in Japan in my opinion. I can't even name any significant disadvantages that could wait for you in these months. The weather is very comfortable and the whole country starts to prepare for the Momiji celebration. It's a phenomenon where Japanese people admire maple leaves of all different colors, from bright yellow to fiery red. In September, preparations for Halloween are already in full swing. For me it is a plus, because in the CIS countries Halloween is not celebrated in any way. And in November there are not many tourists, prices for everything are very nice. Friends, I really hope that this video was useful for you and you learned something new. Support me by liking and subscribing, I will be very grateful. And see you in new videos.